Why does being around the nicest person you know sometimes feel like drowning? You know the person. They never complain, never ask for anything. They'll rearrange their entire week to help you move apartments, stay late to cover your shift, laugh when you cancel plans last minute. And after every interaction, you leave feeling guilty. Not the kind of guilt you can pin down or explain. Just this vague sense that you owe them something. Something they never asked for. That feeling isn't an accident. Research on relational dynamics shows that approximately 40% of adults engage in what psychologists call covert contracting, giving endlessly while maintaining an unspoken ledger of debts they expect others to repay. And the person doing it? They don't even know they're keeping score. But when you don't reciprocate the exact way they silently needed, and you won't know what that way is, because they'll never tell you, something inside them breaks. You become the villain in a story where their only crime was being too generous. That's not kindness. That's something else. If you've ever been around someone whose niceness felt more like a debt than a gift, there's a reason for that. The quiet pressure of their constant generosity, the way it turns into an invisible tally sheet you never agreed to sign, that's not an accident. What looks like endless compassion? Usually something far more complicated. Therapist Robert Glover wrote extensively about this pattern. He describes it as a form of manipulation so subtle that both people involved don't recognize it's happening until the resentment is already baked in. The too nice person gives and gives. Then, when they don't receive the reciprocation they were silently expecting, they don't get angry. They get hurt, wounded, quietly martyred. You're the one who feels like the villain, not because you did anything wrong. They built a trap out of kindness and waited for you to spring it. This pattern rarely starts as manipulation, though. It starts as survival. People who become too nice usually grew up in environments where their needs got dismissed, where their boundaries got punished, where their value was conditional on how much they could give. The message they absorbed, very early, was simple and brutal. Your worth is not inherent. You have to earn it. And you earn it by being indispensable, by making yourself so helpful, so accommodating, so relentlessly pleasant that people have no choice but to keep you around. Or at least that's what they learned. The brain internalized that. The nervous system adapted. What started as a child's survival strategy became an adult's entire relational template. They learned that asking directly for what they need is dangerous. Rejection is unbearable. Conflict feels catastrophic to them. So they found another way. They give you everything you didn't ask for. Then, quietly, without ever saying it out loud, they expect you to know what they need in return. When you don't deliver, they don't confront you. They withdraw. They go cold. They become wounded in a way that makes it impossible for you to not feel like you failed them. Therapists sometimes call this passive aggression wrapped in altruism. It's hostility that can't be named, because it's hidden beneath so much selflessness that calling it out feels cruel. How do you tell someone their generosity feels suffocating? That their kindness has teeth? You can't. You try, and they crumble. They apologize. They insist they were just trying to help. And you're standing there feeling like you just attacked someone whose only crime was caring too much. But the person who's too nice isn't doing it for you. They're managing their own terror. The terror of being unwanted. Every favor they do, every boundary they dissolve, every time they say, "It's fine," when it clearly isn't, that's not generosity. That's insurance. They're trying to make themselves so indispensable, so easy, so low maintenance that maybe you won't leave. The irony is brutal. The strategy designed to keep people close becomes the thing that pushes them away. Because relationships built on covert contracts don't feel like relationships. They feel like transactions, where nobody told you the terms. One person thinks they're connecting. The other is just trying to survive, dressed up as kindness. They apologize for things that weren't their fault, laugh off their own hurt, insist they're happy to help. Even when the exhaustion is right there, you don't have to do that. And they look at you with something close to panic, because what you're offering them, permission to rest, permission to have needs, That feels like the beginning of being discarded. At 20, this pattern felt like being a good person. At 30, it started to feel like drowning while pretending to swim. By now, a lot of people living inside this dynamic are starting to realize something. The cost of being too nice isn't just exhaustion. It's resentment, rage, the quiet, accumulating fury of having given everything and feeling like it was never enough. Not because people didn't appreciate it. No amount of appreciation can fill the void left by a childhood where love was something you had to earn by erasing yourself. They grieve sometimes. The version of themselves who could have just asked, who could have said, "I need this," without the 3-day spiral of shame afterward. Who could have believed that people might stay even if they weren't perfect? That grief is real, and it lives right alongside the resentment. Two sides of the same wound. Endlessly accommodating but quietly keeping score. Selfless but silently suffering. Kind but carrying a ledger no one else can see. That is the person who's too nice. Not generous. Self-abandoning. Not compassionate. Self-erasing. And not because they want to manipulate you. They learned, a long time ago, that the only way to be safe was to make themselves small, helpful, invisible enough that you'd forget you ever had the option to leave. If you've ever felt the weight of someone's kindness becoming a debt you didn't agree to, or if you've been the person giving endlessly and wondering why it never feels like enough, you're not alone in that. This pattern is more common than anyone talks about. It lives in the gap between what people say and what they need. If this video gave language to something you've been carrying, subscribe to the channel. We explore the psychological patterns that hide beneath the surface of behaviors everyone thinks they understand. Thanks for being here.